Hello and welcome back. For traditional, how do you usually start a big piece? What's your process? Well, a big piece, so I guess I'll call my big pieces anything that's over 11 by 14. I've only ever worked as large as 14 by 18 because I don't have any paper that's larger than that exactly. But for my large and complicated pieces, my process always starts with thumbnailing. This is probably one of the most important parts of the process because thumbnailing stage is when I really flesh out the idea. It's when I get a good grasp on the composition. I figure out how everything's laid out, where the contrasts will be, where the figures stand and their pose and everything. The thumbnail's where everything starts, and if I don't have a thumbnail, I don't have a plan. It's kind of my blueprint. It's what I need to start a large painting. Otherwise, I have no direction, and I've got no idea of where I'm going. Unless I want to do something on a whim, I would say is totally fine, but it's not generally the way that I work. I do a complex thumbnail and a simple thumbnail. So simple thumbnail is generally 1 by 1.5 inches or 1 by 2 inches, depending on what the size of the paper is I'm going to be working on. So I'll do a few simple thumbnails. Once I find a thumbnail that I really like, I will do a complex one, which is a little bit larger, usually 3 by 6 inches, something like that. I will do a more detailed thumbnail that's that size. Once I have that the way I like it, then I will go online, I will look through all of my own photo files, and I will find every reference that I possibly can, or at least any reference that I need. So recently I did a painting for the winter holiday cards that I send out every year to family and friends and my patrons, and they were 2 ducks. I knew I was going to do ducks, and I chose tufted ducks. And the reason I chose tufted ducks was because I took a whole bunch of photos of tufted ducks. So I found 2 photos that I took that I really liked to use for reference. And then I also went online and I found about 8 or 9 different photos of wetland grass. And none of these photos, I didn't look at these photos to copy any of these. I just tried to figure out what grass looks like when it's in water and how it bends over and stuff like that. So I got a good feel for what the grass looked like, and I used those references to lay down a base sketch. So I sketched out the ducks together, I sketched out the grass, and I pretty much made the entire composition in Photoshop, just black and white lines. So that once I had everything sketched out in Photoshop, I printed that out on my printer, and then I used graphite paper to transfer the drawing onto the paper that I was going to be painting on. And I don't always do this. Sometimes I will just sketch directly on the paper itself, but because of these ducks and because of the fact that they are real life animals and not just like a fantasy creature, I wanted to be as accurate as possible. So I used Photoshop to create as accurate as I can line work of the ducks, and then I transfer that to the paper. And then from there on, it's just a matter of painting it in. So that's one of the main processes. Otherwise, I just have the paper and I just lightly sketch directly onto the paper and then paint directly over the top of my pencil lines. So a lot of my watercolor paintings, you can see the pencil lines that are mixed in with the paint, and I actually don't mind it. I like the way that it looks really rough and everything, so I just leave them there. Alright, that wraps it up. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!